morning, everyone. It's good to have each one of you with us today. The Lord has been opening up many doors with this COVID-19 issue, and we've actually expanded our web presence, and we're just so thankful for those of you that are watching from afar. So welcome to Red Willow, the online experience, and I just pray that you will continue to be blessed. I just have a few announcements today that I felt was important to make. Lots of things are happening in the church, and I am just so thrilled with the way everyone has stepped up and has become involved. I heard this week that there was someone who was sick, and not only did they receive email greetings, but some of you talked to them on the phone in order to encourage them. And that's what community is all about. When we all come together and we just join in whatever area we can. So here's the first announcements. We send out a news blast or things that are happening, and we send it out each week. If you're not getting it, I want to encourage you to go on the website and sign up in order to receive it, because then you will be up to date with what's happening. But I know some of you don't receive it, so I do have a couple of announcements in reference to that, and I'll be short, but if you want to know more, then you go on our website. The first is this: we do have a weekly Bible study every Sabbath morning at 9:45, and it's done by Zoom. So if you want to take part in that, please feel free to join the Zoom session. We also have a young adult Bible study, and that happens tonight at 6 o'clock. This will be the second time. 27 people enjoyed the study the previous week, and so I'm expecting that even more will join tonight. We also have weekly prayer meeting. There are a number of groups that are meeting, and again, go on our website or get the news blast, and you will find out how to join and what's going on. We also have a children's Bible study program that'll happen every Saturday at 10:30. Kim Upshaw is doing the crafts, and you can pick them up at the church. There's going to be a time where you can just drive through. You don't even have to get out of your car. They will hand you the materials that will last for a whole month that have to do with each week's session. And so the final announcement is this, that you're all aware that on Thursday, the Alberta government opened things up, including religious services. Now, we could theoretically open up and have religious services, but we have chosen not to. And I'll tell you some of the reasons why. The first is, I think it's a bit soon. I don't believe that we're ready to open back up yet with the virus the way it is and interactions the way they are. But the other reason is the restrictions that they've placed upon religious services. Now, I think the restrictions are appropriate because we don't want to enhance the spread. But by the same time, I'm not sure with all the restrictions in place that it would be good for us to meet. For instance, one of the restrictions is you can't sing. And so you'd be coming to hear the sermon, and that's fine. You might enjoy hearing it live, but some of the other things that we have to do as well is we have to keep the social distance of 2 meters, and therefore it will be spread out. The maximum amount of people we can have in the sanctuary at any one time, or in the church at any one time, is 50 people. And I simply don't know how to work that, because we can't have people waiting outside for an hour while we have church because they came and we already had our 50 people in there. So at this time, I don't think it's appropriate to open up. We will be monitoring the situation as closely as we can, and we will open up as soon as it is healthy and wise to do so. But in the meantime, we have all these great things going on in Zoom and lots of things happening that I hope will continue to happen after we do open up again as well, because some of these things are just really, really good. And I want to thank everybody that's taking part in making it a reality.
Thank you, Pastor Dan. Church family, I wanted to take a few moments before we head into the music to let you know that things are going to look a little bit different. See, behind the scenes, there are a lot of moving pieces that have to come together in order for our live stream to work each weekend. Well, unfortunately, this weekend, we ended up running into a number of significant technical difficulties. And so as a result, we have chosen to do a throwback Saturday. So as you watch today's music and sermon, it may look like we are all right back at church with people in the pews watching and participating. I don't want you to worry though. We are not back at church. This is a replay of songs and the spoken word that have happened in the past. And I know that just as you did then, you will enjoy it this weekend as well.
There's no darkness in your eyes. There's no question in your mind. God Almighty, God of mercy. There's no hiding from your face. There's no striving in your grace. God of mercy, God Almighty, let there be light. Open the eyes of the blind. Purify our hearts in your fire. Breathe in us, we pray. Jesus, have your way. There's no borders in your love, no division in your heart, God of heaven, God of freedom. There's no taking back the cross, no regret in what it cost. God of freedom, for the broken-hearted. We sing louder, release from prison and shame, oppression turning to grace for every captive. Sing louder, restoring sight to the blind, breaking the curse of the night for all in darkness. Sing louder, proclaiming freedom for all. This is the day of the Lord, beauty for ashes. Let there be that shines above, become the light that shines in us. There's no darkness in your way, so have your way. Lord, have your way. Be still and know that the Lord is in control. Be still, my soul. Stand and watch as giants fall. I won't be afraid. You are here. You silence all my fear. I won't be afraid. You don't let go. Be still, my heart, and know. I won't be afraid. Be still and trust what the Lord has said is done. Find rest, don't strive. Watch as faith and grace align. I won't be afraid. You are here. You silence all my fear. I won't be afraid. You don't let go. Be still, my heart, and know. I won't be afraid. to do. Done more than our minds could ever think. Dreams and visions go beyond what we can see. Our hearts united in the wonder of it all. We stand united in the wonder of your love. Fully devoted, we follow after the one who gave it all. Christ alone be praised. Fully devoted, we follow after the one who gave it all. Christ alone be praised. There's no limit, your word is reaching all the earth. All consuming, your love is bringing hearts to life. Our hearts united in the wonder of it all. We stand united in the wonder of your love. Fully devoted, we follow after the one who gave it all. Christ alone be praised. Fully devoted, we follow after the one who gave it all. Christ alone be praised. No matter what it takes for the glory of your name, Christ alone be praised. We're stepping out in faith so the world will know your name. Christ alone be praised. No matter what it takes for the glory of your name, Christ alone be praised. We're stepping out in faith so the world will know your name. Christ alone be praised.
thank you for another day where we can worship and praise you. Please help us feel motivated to be your faithful servants and to develop a closer relationship with you. I pray for healing upon Dr. Ramalingham, as well as comfort. Please forgive us of all our sins. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. It is good to see each one of you here today. First weekend of the new year, and you guys have made an excellent decision to be here. Because there were other places you could have been, I'm sure, but this is the best place to be, I have no doubt. West of here, thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to the concert tonight. If any of you are, I believe the concert is at 8 o'clock. I believe the concert is 8:30. I don't know who said 8 o'clock, but it's at 8:30, okay? And so you're welcome to be here, and it's going to be a great thing. Now, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but is it Billboard that you guys are on, the Christian Billboard, whatever it is, and you're ranked number 3 in the country? Is that true? Did they leave? They must have heard I was preaching. Okay, at any rate, they're a very talented bunch, and you will be blessed. And so tonight there is a meal for youth, and youth is classified from 13 to 30. Yeah. So, and I had a birthday in December, so I'm out now too. So at any rate, youth, you're welcome to be here. There's still room, and what did I do wrong now? I was getting to that. Okay. If you receive this, then you'll receive that it costs $15 for the concert and the meal. But if you just want to come for the concert, I mean, if you're 31 and you just want to come for the concert, it's $10 at the door. And so you will be blessed if you do. So please come. You will be blessed. I don't know, many of you have probably received this, and it's a 10 days of prayer at Red Willow. Now, Kay, I was looking for you. Are you here? Kay? Kids Church. Okay. All right. Because it says location to be announced, but I don't know what the location is, so I can't announce it. Okay? But I know it's not here. Okay? It's somewhere else. In a home or something of that nature. So I believe you have a phone number. What? You know? Okay, Kay, tell me what it is. What? Houses. Okay. Okay, where is it the first night on the day one? Okay, if that was the point, but nonetheless, if you don't know and you want to come, I will give you Rebecca's address, okay? And you just show up at Rebecca's place. You do have it. Where? All the Brazilians are at it now. 9102-5156 Street. I better read it. I need my other glasses. No, you're back?
It's traveling. It's just not one place.
Right, that's what she said.
And so Kay told me that she will have all the addresses, everything is a bit different. But that's
Yeah, but we have to find. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You belong with the Brazilians. Get in there. Okay? So it's 9102-156 Street. You know, you could have just held it there and I would have been able to read it. Okay? Thank you. Okay. So 9102-156 Street. That's the first night. And if you forget, phone Rebecca. Okay? And she'll tell you exactly where it's at. All right? So, again, thank you for being here and look forward to seeing you tonight at the concert. So I want to tell you a little story about an Edmonton police officer. This guy, he was an older gentleman, and he had just bought a brand new Corvette. And so he was sort of testing it out on Highway 2. And, he stepped on the gas. He got it to 100K, 120, 130, 140 kilometers per hour. And he's just having a great time just driving his new Corvette like there's no tomorrow. It's just fantastic. And then he looked in his rearview mirror, and there's these lights and the siren. An Edmonton policeman was after him. Instinctively, he stepped on the gas as soon as he saw the lights. So 150, 160, 170, 180 kilometers an hour. And then he thought, oh, this is silly. And so he finally pulls over. And he pulls over, and the police officer gets out, and he says to him, what were you doing? What were you thinking? I mean, it was dangerous. But he said, it's Friday. In half an hour, I'm off. So I'd rather not write the ticket right now, so I'll tell you what. If you will tell me an excuse that I've never heard before, then I'll let you off. Without skipping a beat, he says, well, officer, a few years ago, my wife had an affair with a police officer and ran off with him. And when I saw those lights, I thought you were bringing her back. Is that a Christian joke or what? I mean, that's... Some of you are going to write me now. Okay, let's get into it. All right? We're talking about being selfless. And I think you will admit that we live in a very self-centered culture. And today we're talking about being faithful in service. And so here's the question that I want you to ask yourself. If somebody were to describe you with the word always, what would they say? In other words, this person, this guy is always this. And the girl would say, this girl is always this. What would others say that you are always doing? Maybe they would say, this person, they are always encouraging. Or they might say they're always griping. They're always complaining. They're always finding fault. Or they might say you're always finding good. Maybe you're always working. Or you're always working out. He's always sharing his faith. She's always on Instagram. What would they say about you if they were to use the word always? What would they say that you are always doing, or how would they describe what you are always doing? Our series is called Selfless. And you will admit, I have no doubt, that we live in a very selfish, self-centered, self-gratifying, self-promoting culture. Now, I did a Google search on self-promotion, and here's what I found. There are a lot of articles on how to self-promote. For instance, there's one, ways to get your work discovered. Forbes wrote this one called Self-Promotion is a Skill. In other words, in order to get anywhere in this society, you have to be able to promote yourself in a way that other people want to be a part of. Here's one that probably some of us need to read. 40 ways to self-promote without being a jerk. I'm sure we've all met self-promoters that we might classify in that column. If I were to ask you, what is the most cited thing teenagers today want to be a celebrity, or they want to be a YouTube star, or they want to be a famous basketball player, or something of that nature. And according to the articles, we have to learn to self-promote if we want to make a difference in this society. One of the terms the youth are using today is GOAT. I want to be a GOAT. How many of you over 30 know what this means? I want to be a GOAT. Okay, well, here's what it means in the lingo of today. Greatest of all time. I want to be the greatest of all time. I want to be the greatest YouTube star. I want to be the greatest celebrity. I want to be the greatest basketball player. Or I just want to be the greatest. I want to be known as the greatest. We live in a self-centered, self-promoting society. But yet, Jesus says it a little different. He says, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. He says it in another place this way. If you want to be the greatest, you need to become a servant. In other words, as Jesus followers, serving isn't just something we do, it is at the core of who we are. I would say it this way. I am a servant of the Most High God. So what are you always doing? If someone to answer that question for you, what would they say you're always doing? Well, in Acts 9:36, there was a lady. And it says this, in Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name is Dorcas. She was always doing good and helping the poor. Now, I want you to know this. In the New Testament, she is the very first Greek woman mentioned in the New Testament. Her name means gazelle. And because of that, some people say or hypothesize that she was probably a very pretty person. But she wasn't known for her beauty. She was known for the good that she was always doing. She was always doing good and helping the poor. And what she would do is that she would mend garments, she would make dark garments, and she would give them to people who were in need, people who were struggling, oftentimes widows. Her ministry was so important that when she died, God used Peter to bring her back to life. Now imagine that. You can look at the most important person ever, and Jesus didn't necessarily bring them back to life. But here is this lady named Dorcas, or Tabitha, and she was doing good, and she was serving, and she was making clothes and giving them to people who were in need, and Jesus perceived that to be of such value, and because of what she was doing was so important, that she was brought back to life after she died. She was a servant of the Most High God. So how do we become a faithful servant? You know, maybe I can't make clothes. Trust me, I can't make clothes. Okay? There's so many things that I can't do. I can't sing like these guys, like west of here, like our worship team. I can't drum like Michael. Is Michael still here? Okay. I can't drum like you. I gave him a hard time this morning at practice. And I gave my daughter a hard time this morning at practice. And it's interesting. While Amy was playing the keyboard, I was hitting it. Okay? I didn't hear a thing. Everybody else with earphones heard it because it was just going over that. But I thought I was being funny. She said, well, she actually slapped my hand and said, get away. I can't play like she can play. Okay, I can't sing like these guys can. I can't play like these guys can play. It's just not something I can do. For some, maybe you're not the greatest Bible teacher, and you ask yourself, how can I possibly make a difference? So I'm going to give you 3 images from Scripture, very simple images, and then tie them in with a story from the Scriptures themselves, and see if this makes sense. See if because we are called to be servants of the Most High God, if this makes sense. The very first thing we can do is we can bring a lunch. Now, some of you think, well, that's silly. Bring a lunch. So you know the story about King David. King David one day went out and he killed Goliath. He was praised for that. He was apparently a great general as well, because every time he would come back from victory of defeating another army or whatever it happens to be, people would sing. As he was coming back, people, especially the women would sing, David, you are so great. That's why I'm not west of here. Do you need help? You know? And they would sing about how great David was. Because he was coming back from the battle and he was victorious. I am still waiting for the day. I'm still waiting for the day when I have done battle up here in preaching the word. And I go home and my wife is in the driveway and she goes, Dan, you're so good. It's never happened yet, but she's here today. Maybe today she's out. She's out counting. Okay. And you guys tell her that she should be singing to me, okay, when we get home tonight. Maybe today's the day. Maybe today's the day. I don't know. So why was this guy so great? Because he won the battle. But you look throughout his life, through David's life, and David was actually a servant. When he was playing his harp for King Saul, he was serving. Now she comes back. Yeah, okay. Yes. But here's what happened with David. He exhibited the attitude of a servant because he was part of a big family, 8 brothers. And his brothers were on the battlefield, about to fight a battle. He was tending sheep, serving. And then his father came along and said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to where your brothers are. I want you to go bring them some food. And then I want you to bring a report back to me as to how they are doing. So he quickly went out. And this is when the battle with Goliath took place, because he was operating as a servant of the Most High God. Because what his father was in essence telling him was this: if you want to be on the battlefield, if you want to fight, then you first have to learn to be a servant. And so take this meal to your brothers. If you want to be promoted in the kingdom of God, then the first thing that we need to learn how to do is to become a servant. And one of the ways that we can do that is to bring a lunch. We can serve people. Another thing we can do is we can offer a ride. I love this Old Testament story. 553 years before it was happening, Zechariah the prophet prophesied that one day the king would come riding in on a donkey. And so when that time was approaching for Jesus to ride in on a donkey, then he said, I want you to go out. You will find a donkey tied up. I want you to untie it. If the owner will ask you what you're doing, just say, the master has need of this. Now, we don't know much about the guy who owned the donkey. They suspect he was a businessman, but we don't know whether he owned one donkey, this was his only donkey, whether he had 10 donkeys, whether he had 50 donkeys. We have no idea. But here's the thing. If it was today, we would expect in our culture that if the king was coming, we would expect him to arrive in a stretch limo with all the paparazzis taking pictures and everything else. Well, here's the thing. Back in those days, a donkey was not a great thing to come riding in on. But here's this guy who owned a donkey. Now, he could have said, when he said, what are you doing? The owner could have said, don't you know this is my best donkey? Don't you know that this is a donkey that's never been ridden on? Don't you know this is an upgraded donkey? He has the upgraded hoofs and everything, Why are you untying the donkey and where is he going? Well, he was willing to offer a ride because the master had need. How can you make a difference as a servant? Well, you can simply offer a ride. The third thing you can do is you can carry a towel. This powerful picture comes with Jesus. They're in the upper room, and he knows what's going to happen to him. He knows he's going to be put to death. He knows he is going to suffer brutally on the cross. He knows he is going to bear the sin of the world. He knows all of this. And he looks around. He sees his disciples. He sees proud hearts. And he sees dirty feet. It just so happened at that point in time, an argument had broken out among this. It's the GOAT argument. Who's going to be the greatest of all time? Who's the greatest? I can picture John, the apostle, saying, well, I think I'm the greatest. In fact, if you read my book, it's called the Gospel of John, you will see that I'm referred to as the one whom Jesus loved. I expect the other apostles, if they were alive at that point, yeah, but you wrote that. Or maybe it was Peter. Peter said, okay, I'm the one. I'm the greatest. Let's face it. When Jesus was coming to us on the water and he invited us out, who went out? I was the only one went out. You guys stayed in the boat. And I can picture one of the other apostles saying, yeah, but you only took 3 steps and then you sank. Yeah, but I went out. I am obviously the one. I am obviously the greatest. And then we have Bartholomew going, what about me, guys? Maybe I'm the greatest. And one of the apostles speaking on, Bartholomew, are you still here? Because let's face it, when they're naming off the apostles, if they're trying to think of the last one, guess who that is? It's you, Bartholomew. We can never think what your name is. Now, who's the greatest of all time? Jesus sitting at the table, and he realized that he came not to be served, but to serve. He looks around and he sees those proud hearts, he sees dirty feet, and he gets up, and what does he do? As he gets up, he takes off his outer garment, and he puts on a servant's apron. And he pours water into a basin. And he starts to wash the disciples' feet. And they were like, no, not you, Jesus, not you. I can't let you wash my feet. Because you have to remember, this was probably the most scandalous act of selfless service that you can ever imagine. So what's this business about washing feet? Well, back in the day, it wasn't like now where we have paved roads and sidewalks and things of that nature. They would wear sandals, and it'd be dirt roads, and their feet would actually be dirty. And so when they would come into a house, there would be somebody there. It'd be like us. When somebody comes to our house, say, so how are you? Can I take your coat? Can I offer you a drink of water? What can I do for you? You know what? Lots of people have visited my home, and I'll tell you what I've never done. I've done, can I take your coat? I've done, can I give you a drink? I've never done, would you like a pedicure? Never, ever. Okay? It's just not something I'm going to be doing. All right? So if you come visit me, understand, come with your pedicure already done, because I'm not going to be doing it. So here they are, and Jesus is washing their feet. You know, back in the day, the host would never wash the feet. The servant would wash the feet. So here's Jesus getting up, taking on the servant's towel, and washing the disciples' feet. Now just imagine this. He's the Son of God. He's the bread of life. He's the Prince of Peace. He's the great high priest. He's the light of the world. He's the Lamb of God. He's the Messiah. He's the righteous judge. He's the King of kings and Lord of lords. He's the Alpha and the Omega. And we can go on. There is no one higher than Jesus himself. And he's the one that set our example. And he says, I didn't come to be served, but I came to serve, to give my life as a ransom for their sins. Jesus, the greatest, was a servant. So we can bring a lunch, we can offer a ride, or we can carry a towel. I'm a servant of the Most High God. How does this make sense? Well, in the book of Matthew, chapter 25, there's a story told about sheep and goats. Goats. What does GOAT stand for? Greatest of all time. Okay? So you can be a servant or you can be a goat. All right? And at the end of time, we're told that he's going to put the sheep over on this side and he's going to take the goats. Sorry, that was loud. He's going to take the goats and put them on the other side. And he's going to say to the goats, I never knew you. And he's going to say to the sheep, those with a servant heart and a servant attitude, they're going to say, welcome into the kingdom. And he's going to say, thank you for doing what you did to me. And they're going to say, what? Thank you for doing what you did to me. When I was thirsty, you gave me a drink. When I was locked out, you invited me in. When I was sick, you prayed for me. And when I was in prison, you visited me. And he's going to say, you're going to say, well, Lord, I'm glad we're getting in, but the fact is, I don't remember doing anything like that to you. And his response is going to be, what you did to the least of these brothers, you actually did to me. When you visited someone in prison, you actually showing love to me. When you offered a drink to someone in another country, when you gave money in order for people to build a well there so they can have clean drinking water, you didn't do it just for them. You were doing it to me. When you welcomed somebody who didn't feel welcome and showed them love and grace, you were welcoming me. Now, today, we have visitors today. We have visitors every week, but we have visitors today. And I want to tell you, instead of looking at yourself, I would invite you to look around, especially out in the lobby. And if there's somebody you don't know, introduce yourself. Welcome them here. People should leave this place saying, this is the friendliest church I have ever been in. Why? Because we're trying to get brownie points? Not at all. But because that stranger that came in today needs someone to say that they were noticed, that they were loved, that they were cared for. You know, you have, those of you that are here all the time, you have no idea the anxiety that goes through people's minds and hearts when they're visiting a brand new place, especially a church, because they're wondering, what's this place like? What are the people in it like? Am I going to be accepted? Will I be cared for? Or will I be ostracized? Will anybody speak to me? Will I feel comfortable or not? And so there are people here today that you have the opportunity to serve just like you were serving Jesus Christ. And so I would invite you today after church, serve Jesus. Serve Jesus. And he's going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. You know, I love it. In the kingdom of God, small things matter. Now, there are things that happen in this church that hardly anyone is aware of. For instance, around Christmas time, there was a group that went out to Hope Mission, and they sang songs for them. They spent a couple of hours down there, and you know what? The people at Hope Mission appreciated it so much. But it took someone who was going to be selfless in serving in order to do that. Most of you probably don't know that this year we had a lot of backpacks for kids going back to school. And they were stuffed with school supplies. People went out shopping, spent their own money. I don't think they asked the church for anything at that point. And so they spent their money and bought the supplies and stuffed them and then brought them to people that were in need. And you may not even be aware of them. What you are aware of course, is packed and delivered 88 Christmas hampers this year. And I want to thank you for doing that. We thought we weren't going to be doing anything, but as well, the church put in $3,000 from the Benevolent Fund in order to top things up so that some of our elderly folks, some of our shut-ins and things of that nature would receive a gift at Christmas time. That was serving Jesus. It really was. Or people are out teaching a lesson right now. Some people in kids' church serving our children. They're not in here. They're out serving. And they're serving Jesus because of it. So what are you always doing? If someone was to describe your life as always, what are you always doing? Well, he's always offering a ride. She's always carrying a towel. He's always bringing a lunch. She's always in a baby. He's always welcoming people at the door. She's always giving to somebody who's in need. Or he's always praying. How do you become great? Not by self-promotion, but by serving. We deny ourselves because it's not about us. It's all about him. I'm not doing good because I want to impress anybody, but because of what he did for me. I am a servant of the Most High God. And when I serve others, I'm serving God. You know, talking about self-promotion, this happened about 30 years ago, so you'll never guess who it is. But it's a pastor in a different conference, different section of the country completely. And we had a special service at our church, and I was to introduce the guest speaker. And so I went up to the guest speaker after he arrived, and I said, is there anything particular you want to say? You want me to say about you? And he reaches into his pocket and brings out 3 pages, single-spaced, of how good he is. It went back to when he was a Boy Scout and what level he attained. It talked about his degrees. It talked about all the things that he's done. And it honestly, I read it, and I can't do this. I simply can't. So when I got up to introduce him, I said this. I wonder what I was going to say about this fellow. And fortunately, he supplied me with 3 pages of stuff that I could say about him. But I can't read this. But one thing I know is this: behind every great man is a great woman. So I'd like his wife to stand up and give him a hand, give her a hand, And that was it. So he got up. He read all 3 pages. Self-promotion. And you want to know something? I followed his career. He has been he's been in the office, a departmental director, vice president, president, all that sort of stuff. Self-promotion worked for him. I don't know if it worked as far as God wanted it to work, but it certainly worked for him. Well, that was an aside. I don't even know why I said it, but nonetheless, it had to do with self-promotion. How do you become great? Love a teenager. Someone who's going through a tough time, love him unconditionally and accept him and be with him and encourage him. And Jesus will say, when you serve that 15-year-old boy, you were serving me. Or it could be somebody in a small group, if you're leading out in a small group. So when you led out in a small group, when you were teaching the Bible to this group, you were doing it for me, and I want to thank you for doing that. So here's my honest suggestion. Every one of us, we need to find a place of service. We need to find a place where we can invest and say, this is what I am doing for the Lord. This is what God has called me to do. And do it consistently. When we wake up, say, God, help me see the opportunities today. Opportunities to serve you. Opportunities to speak of you. Opportunities to offer a ride. To carry a lunch. To wash somebody's feet. What is he always doing? What is she always doing? Well, she's always serving. He's always making a difference. She's always helping people see the love of Jesus. He's always there every single week, showing consistently you can count on them. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. Because Jesus will say, you did it to me. Because serving is not what we do. Serving is the highest calling God has given us. Let's pray. So, Father, we ask that you would stir us. Shake us, God. Move us out of this selfish, self-centered, self-promoting way of thinking. And God, may we start by denying ourselves. Father, I thank you for this congregation, this fellowship, that, I'm not boasting, but boy, are they great. They serve, and I thank you for their service. Whenever there's something that needs to be done, they're right there. And so I want to thank you that you have blessed this fellowship with people that are moved by your heart of service. But Father, I know for each one of us, there's always room where we can serve you better. And so we ask that you continue to enlighten us and guide us. Lord, we ask for your blessing as we go out and serve you this week. For we ask it all in the name of Jesus. Amen. Please stand as we sing our closing song.